Hey, we're going to go over how to use semicolons and colons, and these are good not only for clarity purposes but also stylistic purposes. So depending on where or how you printed out the semicolon and colon sheets, the number of the pages will differ, so I'm just going to show you what the pages should look like that you should have. One begins with the last bit that we studied on commas, and then it goes into semicolon statutes. That's one of the pages. The next page is going to look like this. It's going to have a kid telling another kid a secret. And then the last one is going to be colon controls, and then three rules on those. So let's start with, make sure you get that, all those items, and we're going to start with semicolon, excuse me, statutes. So there's two main ways that you need to use this. And the first one is to use in a list in which commas are already in use. So let's read this sentence, and I think I can show you better just doing it. You will need to bring a sleeping bag, pillow, and pajamas for the overnight stay, a water bottle, waterproof jacket, sweatshirt, and walking boots for the afternoon trek, and a swimming kit for the river activities. So you have actually 1, 2, 3 items in your list, but within those items there are other items in a series that need to be set off by commas. So let's set those off. A sleeping bag, comma, pillow, comma, and pajamas for the overnight stay, a water bottle, comma, waterproof jacket, comma, sweatshirt, comma, and walking boots for the afternoon trek, and a swimming kit for the river activities. You don't need any commas here. So because there are all these commas, to make a distinction between each of the main items in the series, we're going to put a stronger punctuation, which is the semicolon here and semicolon here. This is needed for clarity. All right. The second one is when you join two related sentences. So here's one sentence. Harris walked home from work on the railroad tracks. Here's another one. This was not a good idea. Both two complete sentences, both related to each other, so I'm going to join them with a semicolon. Here's a second one with a little twist on it. The train was quite close and rather loud. However, Harris did not notice. Okay. These are the two sentences, so this is where I'm going to join them with a semicolon. This word, however, is called a coordinating a conjunctive adverb. It joins things together. And so when you use a word like this, and I'm going to make it easier for you in just a second, you're going to set it off by a comma here when it comes after a semicolon joining two sentences. All right. There's a whole list of conjunctive adverbs, but I'm not interested in you learning that list. I'm going to give you a shortcut, but let's fill in these blanks. The word, however, is like I said, conjunctive adverb. But just like we had fanboys being a kind of shortcut, a mnemonic device to help remember those kinds of conjunctions, we have this mnemonic, a film shot with 2 F's and 2 T's. To help us remember some of the main types of conjunctive adverbs. to finish this out, when joining two sentences using a conjunctive adverb or film shot words, place a semicolon before the conjunctive adverb and a comma after the conjunctive adverb. So here are a list of conjunctive adverbs that are the most common, and these are the ones that I will expect you to be able to use correctly when you use them with a colon. Okay, ready? So F is for finally. The second F could either be for further or furthermore. I is for instead. L is for likewise. That's one word. M is for meanwhile. S is for similarly. H is for however. O is for otherwise. The first T is for therefore. And the second T is for thus. Okay. Let me give you some examples of the things that we've done, because that can get kind of confusing. So we're going to have a mini review over a few items that are kind of similar. So one way you can join a complete sentence with another complete sentence is to use a fanboy word, and that, write these down with me if you would. For, an, nor, boy, but, or, yet, and so. If you do that, then before the fanboy word you put a comma, and at the end a period. If you join two complete sentences and you don't want to use a fanboy's word because they're very related, you can join them just with a semicolon and then make sure there's a period at the end. The last thing is what we just went over, which is if you have a complete sentence and you have another complete sentence and you use in here a film shot word, and let's go over those again just for memory's sake. It helps when you write things down. So let's do it again. Finally, further, furthermore, instead, likewise, meanwhile, similarly, however, therefore, otherwise, therefore, and thus. So if you have one of these words between these two sentences, then you're going to have a semicolon at the end of one sentence, the conjunctive adverb word here, the film shot word here, and then it's followed with a comma, and then the rest of the sentence, the complete sentence, and then a period. Okay, now we're going to quickly go into the second part, which is colon controls. And this is, to me, even shorter. Okay, so there's three main ways that you use colons. One is to introduce a list. Another is to introduce a restatement or an elaboration of what you've already said. And the last one is to introduce a quote using a complete sentence. This one right here we will be using a ton. Okay, so if you want to introduce a list, listen to this sentence. And by the way, this is true information. Several famous people were born in Georgia: Jimmy Carter, Kanye West, Hulk Hogan, Julia Roberts, and Spike Lee. Well, the sentence is, several people were born in Georgia, and then we begin a list. So we can put a colon right here, and it means such as or note what follows. Note a complete sentence must come before a colon that introduces a list. Okay. For number 2, when you want to introduce a restatement or an elaboration, you can use a colon. So, for example, instead of these 2 sentences, you could say, many people have given their lives for one belief, such as, or note what follows, they believed in freedom. And so you can put a colon there to indicate the connection between this sentence and this one. This is kind of a restatement or an elaboration of the previous sentence. And another example of it is, most people know the origin of our state's name, King George II. Well, this is the complete sentence, and then King George II is simply more information or an elaboration of this point. The last one is when you have a quote, and see right here we've got quotation marks, so the quote is, read 1,000 books and your words will flow like a river. Well, if before that quote there's a complete sentence, then you put a colon after that complete sentence. So let's read it. The prolific writer Lisa C. believes reading aids writing. That's a complete sentence. So put a semicolon here. Okay, now it's time to get on your practice work for semicolons and colons.